The silence of the woods always felt heavy, not peaceful. Heavy, like a blanket soaked in sorrow. John had come here to this forgotten cabin to escape, to outrun the memory of Lily, his daughter, just 4 years old. A moment, a single stupid, distracted moment. That's all it took. And then, forever, the world went quiet. He blamed himself. Every breath was a reminder. Every flicker of light, every shadow. The cabin was supposed to be a sanctuary, away from the pitying glances, the whispers. But the woods had their own whispers. He'd tried to paint, his old passion, but the canvas stayed blank, white, stark, like a fresh tombstone. The trees outside, they were ancient, especially that one, a massive gnarled oak right by the small cracked window. Its branches were like skeletal fingers, always reaching, always watching. He swore it watched him. Days bled into nights. The air inside the cabin grew thick with unspoken words. He'd hear things. A faint giggle carried on the breeze. Or was it just the wind? He'd stop listening. Nothing. Just the rustle of leaves. But then a soft hum. A lullaby. Lily's favorite. His throat would tighten. He'd clench his fists. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. Grief. Just grief playing tricks. He found it one morning. A small wooden bird, carved roughly. Lily had loved birds. She used to draw them, bright and clumsy. He hadn't seen this one before. It sat on the rough-hewn table next to his untouched sketchbook. His heart hammered. He knew he hadn't put it there. He lived alone. Alone. Always alone now. He started seeing things, quick flashes, a tiny shadow darting past the doorway, a reflection in the dusty glass of the window, a small figure standing behind him. He'd whip around, breath catching. Nothing. Just the empty room. Just the oppressive stillness. Sleep offered no escape. The dreams were worse. Always the accident, the screech of tires, the flash of white. Lily's tiny hand reaching. He'd wake up shouting, drenched in sweat. The image burned into his eyelids, her eyes wide with fear, looking at him, always looking at him. He began to avoid the window, avoided looking at that gnarled oak. But it was there, always there, looming. One evening the light was fading, turning the forest into long, distorted shadows. He sat by the dying fire, sipping cold coffee. He felt a chill, a breath on his neck. He turned slowly. There, on the opposite wall, was a drawing. Not his. It was childish, a stick figure holding a balloon. It was Lily's drawing. He knew it. He'd seen her draw that exact one months before. His hands trembled as he reached out. The paper felt cold. Too cold. A whisper. Close. "Daddy." He froze. His blood turned to ice. It wasn't the wind. It was her voice, small, fragile, full of sorrow. He squeezed his eyes shut. "No," he muttered. "No, this isn't real." He opened his eyes. The drawing was gone. Just the rough-hewn logs of the wall. He stumbled backward, knocking over his chair. He had to leave. He had to. This cabin, it was cursed. Or he was. He made for the door, fumbling with the latch. It wouldn't open. Stuck. He yanked harder. Nothing. A faint scratching sound started. From the wall. Behind him. He spun around. The gnarled oak. Its branches were now visible through the small window, reaching inside the cabin. Not just through the window, but through the walls. The wood of the cabin, the very logs, seemed to be part of the tree now, swirling, twisting. And there, standing under the impossible branches of the tree, inside his cabin, was Lily. She was wearing the little yellow dress he'd bought her, her favorite. Her eyes were dark, not happy. They were accusing. "You told me to wait," she whispered again. Her voice was an echo, a memory made real. You said you'd be right back." He stumbled, falling to his knees. Tears streamed down his face. "Lily, my baby, I'm so sorry." She didn't move, just stood there, utterly still, watching him. Then she lifted a tiny hand and pointed at the floor. He looked down. The rough wooden planks began to ripple, like water, and in the center of the ripples, something began to pool, dark, red. It spread, slowly, inexorably. It smelled metallic, the scent of copper, acrid and raw. He looked up at Lily. Her eyes were still fixed on him. And then he saw it, the wooden bird she used to play with. It lay at her feet. But it wasn't wood. It was mangled metal, twisted, sharp. The cabin walls dissolved around them. The trees, the fire, the dusty table, all gone. He was no longer in the cabin. He was back. The screech of tires echoed, the sickening crunch of metal, the smell of gasoline and something else. Something warm and wet and everywhere. He was pinned, trapped. The car, his car. It was twisted around a tree, that gnarled oak. Not a tree from the cabin, the tree from the accident. His hand. He looked down. It was covered in blood. Her blood. He hadn't been able to reach her. He had been distracted. Just for a second. Looking for a map, trying to find the shortcut. She had just whispered, "Daddy, are we there yet?" He'd said, "Almost, sweet pea. Just a little more. You wait right here for me." And then the truck. The cabin. The quiet. The escape. It was never real. He was still here, trapped in the wreckage, trapped in that second. His mind, broken by guilt, had built a sanctuary he could never enter. A nightmare he couldn't leave. Lily wasn't a ghost haunting the cabin. The cabin was a haunt built by his own mind, and Lily was the constant living memory of his failure, trapped with him in the never-ending replay. The horror was that he was the only one still alive, but he wished he wasn't. He was condemned to watch the crash forever. His guilt, the ghost, his regret, the prison. He closed his eyes, but the images remained. The silence of the woods was just the ringing in his ears. The heavy blanket of sorrow, his own blood. If this story gave you chills, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more terrifying tales.